What is up, everyone? Chris Manning here from the Locked On Cavs podcast with my co-host Evan Damro. We're coming to you late on Sunday night after Cleveland lost to Golden State in what will go down as the Klay Thompson return game, but obviously the Cavs were on the other side of that. That is all coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Want to let everyone know that today's show is your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available on all platforms. Go, please hit it, subscribe on YouTube. We're almost to 1,000. Help us get there by going and subscribing on YouTube today if you haven't already. Okay, Evan, Cavs lose to the Golden State Warriors on Sunday night, 96-82, a game that got pretty uncompetitive, if I will say so, in the second half. Got, within 10-ish late, but never totally felt like the Cavs were going to come back in this one. We're going to do in this show big picture takeaways in the second one. We're going to dive into the rebounding and Lowry Markkanen issues in the second segment, and then third segment, we're going to talk about Taco Fall being waived and the Cavs signing Brandon Goodwin to a two-way contract to fill that spot. So, Evan, what's kind of your big takeaway from Cavs dubs round 2 of this season?
The Cavs are really getting worked on boards, especially in the offensive glass, giving people way too many second chance opportunities. I talked about this in the Lockdown Now, so if you happen to come listen to this episode, thank you for making us your first listen. If you're checking us out on YouTube, thank you for making us your first watch of the day. But it really became evident. Like, it came to a head tonight against Golden State. You should never give up second chance opportunities, like no duh, in any conventional sense of basketball, especially against a team like Golden State, where they have arguably the greatest shooter of all time, Stephen Curry, and Klay Thompson's back, who's no slouch either. And Klay looked pretty good. Like, the great game overall. Like, that's my other takeaway is, like, it's just good to have Klay Thompson back in the league. My other takeaway is, and this isn't really a surprise, I've kind of felt this way for a while, like, I just throw up my shoulders and shrug. Like, I'm not going to get too emotionally invested in these losses like this. I just think the Cavs are a young, fun team, and they clearly aren't an NBA Finals caliber roster like Golden State. And I think this is the first time they played like a truly healthy contending squad this year. And this is their worst loss and Darius Garland's worst game of the season. That's just pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, I think this game is one of those barometer tests. Like, I think number one, I felt like the Cavs just the whole game were really searching for consistency, right? Like, I think we looked through this whole game and it's like Cleveland is trying to just settle itself. This team is trying to like kind of deal with, some of the stuff Golden State throws you. I mean, I thought that was one of the things that was notable with Evan Mobley in this game was just like he is trying to figure some of this out as he goes. And looked a little confused at times, looked a little overwhelmed at times. I thought the Warriors putting Wiggins on Garland from the jump was like, okay, like we saw what you did to us last time. Remember the first time these two teams played in Cleveland, Darius Garland dueled Stephen Curry for really the first half of that game, and he was amazing. And this one, a little more stifled. The Golden State was kind of pre-rotating a couple guys over his way, trying to say, okay, we're going to show three guys at you. We don't trust you to, let Larry Markkanen shoot, let Lamar Stevens shoot, like let Rajon Rondo shoot in the corner. Like, we don't care. Darius, give us the ball or attack three guys. Like, pick your poison. And neither of these options are particularly good right now. Golden State, I think, just clearly much, much better. Golden State, shocker, one of the best teams in the league. Klay, they clearly benefited, I think, probably some energy bump from getting Klay back. And him playing 20 minutes and that dunk that he had was pretty cool and stuff. But like,
well, that dunk was filthy, man. I didn't know he had that in his bag, especially after a torn Achilles. I was just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Like, I held my breath when he came down at first. I'm like, "Please land normally." And then he came back fine.
Yeah, like he beat Jared Allen off the dribble, and it was Jared Allen like kind of leaning, but he still was able to like react real quickly and get that dunk off. That was pretty good. Like, and look, Golden State just like has guys that I think like would clearly be a rotation of guys on Cleveland's team. They're just deeper than Cleveland. I think that's part of this too. Like Otto Porter Jr., Juan Toscano Anderson, Gary Payton II, Jordan Poole. These are all guys who come off the bench for Golden State who would be playing, like, I think, real minutes if you put them on Cleveland's roster. Like, those are good NBA players, and the Cavs are just kind of, like, a little thin. Partially due to injury, but like Lamar Stevens, he played well. Like we should talk about him a little bit, but he played 34 minutes in this game. Like he's not a 34 minutes a game NBA player if we're
Nah,
kind of keeping
he
it
played
keeping it
well
straight
though.
here. Yeah, no, he played well, but it's like again, Lamar Stevens playing 34 minutes and again, he deserves credit. He was 8 of 11, 17 points. He was one of only a few Cavs who kind of like looked kind of competent on offense. Rondo somehow was 3 from 3 and 6 of 10 from the field overall, which just feels bizarre to me. But like this is just, I think, one of those reminders that the Cavs still have some growing up to do. They're not quite as deep as I think we would like. And look, this was a learning experience. I think when Evan Mobley and Darius Garland and Jared Allen and these young guys get to go back and look at the tape and they get to kind of process this, they're certainly, I think, going to feel they're going to learn something from this. This is like one of those like, okay, like the older, more experienced, really good team kicks you in the teeth a little bit and you kind of learn from it and you hopefully figure something out from it because, like it just was clearly like a step down for Golden State to just against Cleveland for what they are right now. Um, notable I would just say again, Cleveland still kind of down some guys. Kevin Love didn't play well in this one, so there's some things that didn't break right, but certainly kind of an energy-less performance. I think in a lot of ways, aside from some there like were some ups obviously, but a lot of downs more than some positives.
Yeah, there are a lot of downs if you really like break down the tape and the nitty gritty of this game. But again, I'm not too pressed about this one. I think this is just a fun game overall. It's good to have Klay Thompson back, like I said. There's like fun individual performances. Darius Garland was a huge bummer, but like you said, I think Golden State. This might be hot takey on my part, but they feel like the first team who really scouted the fact, like you said, they threw Andrew Wiggins. They kept throwing length at Darius Garland just to frustrate him throughout the night. And like he defended Steph Curry at times well, and like the team defended Steph Curry at times well. He was red hot in the first quarter, then kind of tapered off a little bit, but wasn't really necessary when the rest of the Warriors just kind of came to play. But I think the Warriors like fully understood, like, listen, the Cavs like bread and butter play is a pick and roll between Darius and Jarrett, and it's an easy lob, or Jarrett gets the ball and Jarrett tries the up and under move or one of his few post moves he has in his bag in order to just try and get an easy bucket. And like the Warriors just walled the Cavs off and said, okay, try and beat us with shooting, because like marketing is kind of non-existent from the perimeter right now. Darius was 2 of 7 on the night. Rajon Rondo, which is weird to say, was the Cavs' best shooter, 3 of 3 on the night, which you will not get on a night-to-night basis. No. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of things. I'm more interested to see how they respond against Sacramento on Monday night, because this is kind of a tough loss, one you kind of take on the chin, and then you're now heading into Sacramento and playing a pretty bad Kings team. If you lay down and look pretty bad against Sacramento, I think that's more of a red flag than hanging close. And I mean, it's a 14-point loss, but like the Cavs were realistically in this one for the better part of the game. Like that's a small consolation prize. Again, no moral victories at the end of the day, but it's a small consolation prize with a team that's arguably a heavy favorite to win the championship this year.
Yeah, I don't necessarily if I agree that it was like close. I didn't feel like this game once we got out of the first quarter that I felt like the
But they
Cavs
went
were
in,
like
like
in it.
they were within 8 with like 6 minutes to go. And like there's
It just
a
felt like a
small
fake. It
chance,
just
and then
yeah,
it
it
slams
just
shut pretty
yeah,
soon
it just
after.
it felt kind of like one of those like fake like lead bumps to me. Like it felt like one of those like, okay, this is like nominally close. Rondo had some moments where it's like, okay, Steph's gonna come back and like light some stuff on
I don't know,
fire.
man. That and when they weathered Steph's initial assault and kind of stable after the first quarter, I'm like, okay, they survived like the first test.
Yeah,
Let's see how
that
they
was
do
like
the rest of the game.
that was like the best they played all game, and then it was just kind of like okay, like again, like I just think they look
It's a
confused.
grudge. It's a
I just
gradual
think they look.
decline. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I think as we kind of go here, I think they looked just overwhelmed at times, and I think like again, this is a learning experience. We should note if we're going to break that we do not know the stat if Darius has like an injury. We'll see what the injury report says. Probably won't get that until later in the day, just considering this is a back to back because the Cavs do play in Sacramento on Monday. A little more West Coast late night Cavs stuff. So we'll see. Potentially if there's an injury there to talk about once we know more. We don't know anything as of right now. All right, after the break, we'll get into more of the rebounding issue and talk about Larry Markkinen because I think they kind of go hand in hand, but it is what it is. First, I want to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar wants to let you know that it's the new year. So that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. perhaps even better than any candy bar. Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Built Bar can be that. And there's so many great flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, and more. So go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15. That is LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, that is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Evan, I want to talk about market and the rebounding as a kind of injunction in kind of as a tandem, because I don't think like marketing is like to blame for the rebounding issues, but I think I think it's like, especially as Evan Mobley is like just getting started and is clearly very thin and like, doesn't
Mhm.
always make like a ton of contact. And I think as we think about like the Cavs playing big, I think like marketing is not like a particularly like physical interior big. Like I think of him almost
Nah,
like a three that happens to be 7 feet tall. And like that is just like
he's no Kevin
how
Durant
he's
either.
you know, like I'm gonna pull
Speaking
up
of threes
his
that are 7 feet tall, I could riff on
yeah.
this for a bit if you want to pull some
Well,
stuff up.
yeah, but like I tend to think that like I think he is just not a guy historically, like the eye test doesn't tell you he's a good rebounder. He actually this year, according to Cleaning the Glass, 55th percentile in terms of forwards as far as rebounding percentage goes. That is, it's actually lower than his previous years, but he's kind of not playing the four anymore. But when he like Chicago last 2 years, not a particularly effective rebounder, was much better earlier in his career. I just tend to think that like Allen gobbles up a lot of rebounds. Marketing is okay at it, and it's not something I don't think Mobley is like. It's not what has popped about Mobley either. Mobley, in terms of his rebounding rate, is like under 50 percentile as far as bigs go, 19% in terms of offensive rebounds, you know, kind of about league average off of free throws on defensive rebounds. So like they're kind of just like fine. And like that's, I think, I feel like especially against a team like Golden State that is so energetic and is scrambling you, if you just can't at least like lock down the rebounds, you're kind of losing some of the benefit in theory of like being this like big team.
Yeah, I think Darius Garland pointed this out a while ago, and Darius flirted with the triple double, maybe like 10 games ago or so. He said it's more of a product of their system because they play with 3 7-footers. They're supposed to kind of more or less box out the opponents and prevent them from crashing the glass and getting easy boards. Because, yeah, in theory, you shouldn't be able to really out rebound 3 7-footers sharing the floor at the same time. Or when you have Lamar Stevens out there too, he is pretty large for the 2 guard position. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so that's like people like Rondo, people like Rubio, people like Darius. I'm sure Colin had some good rebounding numbers as well before he went down with the season with his knee injury. So it's a product of Cleveland's system. But like you said, Larry Markkinen has the God-given abilities of a 7-foot player. He, traditionally speaking, is a power forward center caliber player. He has rarely played power forward this season for the Cavs. Like you said, he is their starting 3. But he just does not like play with any physicality. Like he is not a post threat whatsoever. Like I said, in the last few games, you really notice there's a bit of a jump when the Cavs kind of sub out Markkinen for Love midway into the first or so, or like maybe when there's 8 minutes left in the first quarters, and they usually sub Love in for Markkinen. And you notice there's a little bit of a bump, at least because Kevin's a lot more physical. Kevin can kind of crash the glass a little bit. He can bump and bang with some of the bigger guys and maybe some of the other teams will put on him, because you can mask Markkinen. You can mask like either your worst defensive player, you can mask somebody who's like not really a huge threat offensively on Markkinen pretty well too. And I don't know if we're kind of starting to stretch out this 3 big lineup to its limit here. And I'm not
Oh,
suggesting like a
yeah.
I'm not
I think we're
suggesting
at its limit. Yeah, I think it is what it is. There's also a guy that I want to continue. I'm interrupting. I'm being a jerk.
No, you're fine, dude. Um, I'm starting to question the I think it's a wrinkle the Cavs can run, absolutely. I think it is something that they are going to stick to, but it is also their offensive identity. I don't think you can dramatically shift things and say, okay, we are going to go Darius Garland, let's say Rajon Rondo, Lamar Stevens, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen tomorrow night in Sacramento and play a little bit more of a traditional style basketball. Even Lamar is a three in a power forward's body, if that makes sense. Because like he has the physical capabilities of a small forward, but he has the skill set of a power forward. Um, I don't think they're going to do that because JB has walked this out so far. We're at the halfway mark tomorrow, I want to say. I think they're 41 games into the season. They will be 41 games into the season. So they'll be officially at the halfway mark, and the Cavs are sticking to this big ass lineup that JB likes to call it. I don't think he's going to walk it back at this point. So I wonder what other options they have. And I asked JB about this post game because like Lowry was non-effective on offense. He had 1 3-pointer, just kind of like a blip in the radar. People are obviously kind of chopping at the bit for some type of dramatic change. I agree. I think maybe Dean Wade should get some of Lowry's minutes because I think Dean Wade could be just see what you have. Just roll it out there. You're guaranteed his contract for a reason. He's going to be here for at least until the trade deadline. If he's used his trade fodder, so be it. But I don't know, man. I think it's reached its limit with the big lineup, but I don't think the Cavs can walk it back at this point. But it really is concerning to see 3 7-footers share the floor and they get worked on the glass by Steph. I mean, Kevon Looney was awesome tonight for the Warriors. 9 offensive boards, 9 defensive rebounds. But when like Steph Curry has 3 offensive rebounds, who is just a hair above 6 foot tall, and you have 2 to 3 7-footers manning the paint at any given moment, that's unacceptable. I think that I don't know. I don't know if there's like an easy quick fix, but maybe you try and put in somebody who's a little bit more physical who could play a little harder than Markkanen does, because I think you're spot on by saying like he has the skill set and physical ability of a small forward, but he does not have the capabilities of a small forward to play that style of play the Cavs want. But at the same time, I don't think they can walk this back at the halfway point in the season.
I mean, I think you could, if you had the person. I think if there was an easier upgrade, like if you had.
Well, that's the other issue too, is they have no depth on the perimeter.
Yeah, they don't have. This is like a not deep team. Like sneakily, this is a very not deep team. I think here's two things I would say about this. Number one, I think this is like another area where they miss Ricky Rubio. In terms of rebound percentage, in terms of how many defensive rebounds he's getting relative to his position, 87th percentile this year. Historically, has always been a really good defensive rebounder among guards and combo guards. Just like they don't. That's not what Darius does. I think even like Okoro, who I think has the frame and like the physicality to be a good rebounder, like did not do it well last year. He's a little bit more this year, but it's still like a pretty inconsequential number as far as how it compares to other wings. I think if we're looking at like an easier tweak, and I'm almost kind of surprised to some degree, like why JB wouldn't do this. I kind of wonder if you could see an adjustment where it's just okay. Darius Garland crashes the glass, the guard, like everyone is it's like gang rebounding and just trying to get as many rebounds as you possibly can by having guys crash the glass to just get the ball. And like there's downsides to that. Certainly, you can, if there's an offensive rebound, you can kind of, your defensive matchups can get kind of overwhelmed. There's certainly, and I think like it also, if the Cavs, if you want to create easy baskets, like you have to kind of toe that line of, okay, we want to get the fast break going, but we also want to like, you have to just kind of weigh that, like, okay, can we get going or can we not on the offensive end if we're not getting rebounds? Kevin Love is rebounding really well. Jared Allen's rebounding well, a little bit lower than he normally does, but you could kind of, I think, throw that up to some lineup stuff. I think they miss Rubio. Mobley will have to grow in, I think, to being a more dominant defensive rebounder. That will be part of his game. And frankly, I would like to see Okoro, I think, just kind of be a guy that maybe crashes the glass more. I think that is a way to kind of like just get him, use his frame, use his hustle.
Sorry to cut you off. I really do think the lack of Okoro tonight hurt the Cavs a lot too.
Yeah, for sure, because it's a point of attack thing.
He mitigates a lot of those sloppy offensive boards for like smaller players on the opposing team, just kind of taking advantage of maybe the Cavs' clunkiness right now.
Yeah, and just look, a note on Darius in this regard. Darius Garland having an all-star caliber season, maybe not his best game Sunday, but I think overall having a really, really good season. Never has been a defensive rebounder as compared to guards. First year in the league, which is obviously a weird year for him, but bottom, 0 percentile according to Clean the Glass and defensive rebounding rate off of field goals. Fifth, last year he was in the 5th percentile. He's again in the 5th percentile this year. That is not something he has done. That is not something that is in his game. That is, like point guards obviously are not going to rebound like quite as much as other guards. Rubio obviously is kind of like one of the high end guys of this. Ja Morant on the other end of it is like this year he's in the 86th percentile of guards in terms of defensive rebounding rate. Like, I just wonder if there's a way to, like, okay, Darius crashed the glass, Isaac crashed the glass. You can get more rebounds that way. Because if you don't trust Marketing to rebound, and, like, I'm willing to give a little bit of him a little bit of, like, leeway, just because, like, if he's defending wings, that's just a little harder to track those guys down as a 7-footer. Like, this is one of the downsides of that lineup probably. I think there is just some trickiness here, but I think there are little tweaks you can make with guys crashing and just kind of trying to, even if it costs you like pace, even if it costs you a little bit of a chance to get out in transition, I wonder if it's worth it to just try to grab some rebounds but again, like the Cavs, like last time we looked at this, were like 15th in giving up offensive rebounds. Like, you'd like that to certainly, I think, be better, but maybe over time, once Evan Mobley is 15 pounds heavier next season, once you've rounded out your roster with different kinds of pieces, I wonder if that fixes itself to some degree, but I don't know. But Evan, after the break, let's talk a little bit more about Lowry, because we kind of just sped past him. And we'll talk about Brandon Goodwin and Taco Fall, but you're going to tell everyone first about our friends at BetOnline.
Absolutely. BetOnline would like to wish you all a happy new betting year as we begin our march to playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts, and the exclusive betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Evan, what did you just, as far as Lowry's shooting goes, if you're JB, and you asked him about this, he gave a very coach answer. He didn't really he's never going to throw the guy under the bus. I understand that.
No.
But
I can't
in terms
Mac
of
Robinson this one where I get him to directly answer me. I'm working on it.
Okay. But in terms of his ability as a shooter, what do you how much do you buy what JB is saying of defensive, basically the TLDR being okay, he has a lot of defensive responsibility and the guard stuff has changed, so it's harder for him to get into spots. How much of that do you buy as a real reason why he's struggling?
I don't. I just think he's kind of rushing. It looks like Markkanen's rushing his shot more often than not when he's out there. He gets a look, he gets good, clean looks from the perimeter, and he just rushes it and bricks it, or he misses it. And he makes them every now and then when he's in rhythm. I think it was off of a Rondo pass. I can look it up while I'm talking here, but it was off of a Rondo dime, where he got a clean look from three, and it was in rhythm. It was off a pick and pop. I think the Cavs need to find more ways to get him involved that way. We talked about this when they played Portland. We talked about this when they played Memphis, but the Cavs are also making a more concerted effort to kind of get him going on the interior too, to maybe just make him feel a little bit more comfortable offensively. If you were hell-bent,
no more post-ups. I want to ban Lowry Markkanen post-ups.
Pick and rolls, or
run him off of two screens, have him curl off of some screens. But if I could ban Evan one thing about having to watch this Cavs team, just that I think is if I was to just be one thing that could make their lives easier, is they kind of go hand in hand. It's technically too, so I'm cheating. Don't post Lowry Markkanen, and when Evan Mobley gets a post up, stop just running it as a static thing. Don't just stand and watch. The Cavs do so much of just standing and watching, and it makes their offense, I think, kind of be kind of sludgy and blood at times, where it could be a little more dynamic if you lean into Mobley's potential as a passer and throw in some movement in there. It's just low-hanging fruit for a team that needs as much low-hanging fruit as they can, in my mind. I'm an idiot, but I think that there's something to that.
Yeah, it's just
Markkanen should not post.
No, he shouldn't. We agree on that. I'm just thinking of if the Cavs are hell-bent and determined, because I can't make the argument that you can't bench Markkanen. You could in theory, because I don't have a $30 million player coming off the bench, because you can't use the money argument because Kevin Love's making more money than I'll ever see in my life this year.
Do you think that they have a reasonable if they're gonna say, okay, we're gonna not start Markkanen
no,
I don't think there's a reasonable thing. I think again that speaks to the
lack of depth. They can't walk back this whole offensive identity. This happens let's say the Cavs make a big swing move, and let's say they get a Jaylen Brown and a Brandon Ingram. They say, this is our starting three, and we'll start Okoro at the 2 or Sexton if he's still here at the 2. And then you bring Markin off the bench if he happens to be here. That's fine. I just don't think you can do this in the middle of the season because this is like your fundamental offensive core belief. And it'd be really hard for this. I think the Cavs, I mean, I don't think it'd be really hard for them personally to walk it back, but I think it'd just be hard for them to like undo a lot of what they've built over the first 40 games this season. But my answer to it is if marketing is just kind of being a turd out there, give Kevin Love. I mean, okay, maybe not give Kevin Love more minutes because you're on a minutes watch with Kevin Love, but why be afraid to not look at the Dean Wade? The Cavs have some solid enough depth pieces on their bench. Like they're starting Lamar Stevens for a reason. They could have easily started Rajon Rondo and kind of condensed their lineup or started Jetty Osman instead, but JB wants to keep certain players in certain roles. Dean Wade cannot play 35 minutes a night, much like Lamar Stevens cannot play 35 minutes a night. But if you want to give him like 10 to 15 of Markkanen's minutes on a given night, if Markkanen's shot isn't falling and Dean Wade happens to respond well, roll with it. Or if Dylan Windler continues to play this well, such high energy, and like I'll look up his numbers, but like he wasn't largely like he wasn't an absolute sniper from 3-point range against Golden State, but he finished the night 1 of 4 from 3. So at least he's attempting them and at least he's making them. And I think if Windler is on, you can give some of the minutes to him as well. Like you have to kind of mitigate and give it elsewhere. Don't give it all to Kevin Love. But I think you shouldn't be afraid to give him the Dean Wade. It's just kind of TLDR.
Yeah. Dylan Windler's also shown a little bit of something. So let's like show him. I think he's just been a little
Oh no,
better.
I said this during the game. Like he keeps playing with like a lot of energy and he's just making the right play, if that makes sense.
And he took a couple threes tonight. We were like, oh,
Yep.
like Dylan's just gonna fire now. That's good.
Yeah, that's fine. Like he's shooting it because the Cavs need to get back into this game. You're like, all right, that's a smart thing. But I think he's kind of making a case where when Okoro comes back, we're about a weekend of Okoro being out with his injury at this point. Maybe like if in a week or two, Okoro is for sure back after his elbow sprain. I think Windler can make a case to maybe get some fringe minutes, especially if you're trying to ease Isaac back into the rotation and everything. But yeah, man, like I think you have options you need to explore because I don't think this Cavs season is dead in the water. This is just the loss.
No.
Again, shrug my shoulders. I think people are being dramatic because Twitter is a hellscape and I logged off for the night. But yeah, this loss to the Warriors sucks. I think people are making more out of it than it is because this rivalry really wasn't about Cleveland and the Warriors. It was about LeBron and the Warriors. But if Markkanen continues to be kind of ineffective like he has been, like you could look at his box score and say, okay, he wasn't bad. But like if you actually like eye test it, you're like, oh my God, Larry Markkanen is bad at times. And you can see why Chicago fans were so frustrated with him at times. A lot like Detroit fans are frustrated with Andre Drummond. Maybe we should listen to opposing fans more often. Hot take. But yeah, just don't be afraid to give like Dean Wade some minutes. It's just the crux of my argument.
Dean Wade also a better rebounder statistically than
better defender too.
Last news of the day. Brandon Goodwin is now signed to a 2-way deal with the Cavs. You have Taco Fall being waived. Evan, I don't have a ton to say. I think that, wish Taco well. I think Goodwin is just clearly like a better, more useful depth piece for this Cavs team right now. He was better than Kevin Pangos when he was here. The cap mechanics of Pangos on guaranteed money kind of made this the way to keep him. I get it. I think Taco is certainly intriguing from the height standpoint and stuff, but I think Goodwin's just better depth, and I don't have much else to say other than that.
No, I absolutely agree. Like I think he's good depth, like you said. He has out Kevin Pangos more often than not. I mean, even when Darius came back from health and safety protocols, Goodwin played over Pangos for the entire game. This is before Rondo was available. It was against Memphis. And I like Goodwin. I think he's a little juice to his game. I think this is a good opportunity for the Cavs to keep exploring further. I asked around. I don't think Taco will be with the Cleveland Charge after he was waived.
No.
I think a team will probably scoop him up on a 10-day deal or something like that. It's fun. I think I wish Taco the best, like you said. I think I got really uncomfortable with how like he became a mascot. And I think he became uncomfortable with it, but he also just appreciated fans showing him so much love and support. Like I understand the novelty of seeing a 7'6" player with the freakishly long wingspan, but at the same time, like he is a professional basketball player, not your mascot for your entertainment. But The taco times were fun. He made the charge games I attended when covering them for either Write Down Euclid, and didn't kick the mic, punch the mic this time, folks, but I kicked the table to shake the webcam. But I wish him the best. He'll get scooped up by another team. I'm sure we'll see he's playing in like some Spanish league in 2 or 3 years. I don't know, man. I just don't really think he's a viable like NBA caliber rotation player. Maybe he ends up in Detroit and plays a Bull Bowl at the same time, and Bull starts at the 3, and Taco starts at the 4 or 5.
Yeah, good lord on that front. All right, that's going to be it for this episode of Locked On Cavs. A ton of other great stuff happening in the NBA right now. So if you want a great second listen, honestly, I'm going to shout out Locked On Grizzlies. Ja Morant had one of, I think, the best block of the NBA season on Sunday night.
Sean Coleman doesn't deserve any love.
Shonda Coleman deserves all the love. Are you kidding me? Love Sean Coleman. Go check out Locked On Grizzlies. And look, if you want another second listen that's a little more gambling focused, may I suggest Locked On Bets, your boy Q, gambling expert Lee Sterling, giving you all of the insight you need to, understand what sports betting is all about and what's going on there right now. Until next time, it's been Locked On Cavs. We'll be back tomorrow, talking about Cavs Kings and some other stuff after that one. TBD and exactly when we'll get that up, just as a heads up, just because of the West Coast Cavs of it all. But until next time, it's been Locked On Cavs. I'm Chris. That's Evan. Be well.
Peace.